Did you have a vision at that stage for a business that provided care?
Yes. So what we do is we provide care in people's houses, in the comfort of their houses. And we move from one client to the next. I need to be also looking at people who are really good at maintaining things and ensuring that the things that we introduce become embedded.
And there's
into
discipline and consistency.
Yes.
Good old-fashioned words, but might appear boring, but they're necessary for the business to work, aren't they?
They're necessary for it to survive, yes.
Torai Tonguna, really good to have you in the studio with us. You're the founder, with your wife, of Holistic Care for You. The clue's in the name, but we want to find out a little bit more. But really appreciate you coming in. It's an exciting story, and I want to unpack your insights and some of the history and get to know you a little bit through this as well. I'm going to learn some things from you. But first of all, welcome to Business Unlimited.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
So just tell us a little bit about your background and history.
Okay, I'm from Zimbabwe. I grew up in Zimbabwe, did my first degree in Zimbabwe, and I'm an engineer by training.
What type of engineering? Mechanical,
Mechanical
electrical?
engineering.
Mechanical.
I loved it, and I came up here to do a master's at Cranfield, and my career has essentially been working mostly for tobacco multinational companies. I had the opportunity there to be a director, and I managed multi-million pound budgets, large operational teams, and when I walked into a room during those days, doors opened, decisions moved quickly, and resources were available. On paper, it looked impressive. But the tobacco industry is complex and often debated. Over time, I found myself reflecting more deeply on the kind of long-term impact I wanted to have. And I began asking a simple question during that time. Where can I contribute in a way that has a clear, positive impact on people's lives and communities? I wanted to build something that's value-based, something that directly improves lives, something that would, in a way, outlast me. And that's what led to Holistic Care for You.
That's fascinating. So starting with a mechanical engineering background and building up some experience working for others, it sounds more like a journey of evolution and continuity and just the understanding of yourself and what would give you purpose, which I think is interesting. So coming into setting up that business, I mean, that must have felt quite daunting, was it really, to begin with?
It was, but we were driven by two reasons.
And when you say we, you were married to Gloria, who I've come to know, so it's a family affair, as it were. Was that something that you co-created, that was part of conversations between you together in terms of where your career might move?
This was as a result of long discussions. And out of those long discussions, we essentially had two things that came to the front, essentially purpose and conviction. Gloria has had, by that time, had had more than 15 years of nursing experience. She had seen good care and bad care. And we were convicted that, people deserved better. It took us 9 months to get our first client. 9 months. 9 months of belief without evidence. 9 months of no income. We had doubts creeping in. People quietly wondering if we had made a mistake. But we had made a decision earlier on that quitting wasn't an option. And when you remove quitting off the table, your thinking changes. And, that season builds something in you. For me and Gloria, it built resilience. It builds conviction.
And did you have a vision at that stage for a business that provided care? And are we talking about domiciliary care, care in the home, or care homes? You're not a care home owner, a care home setting. You're domiciliary care. Is that correct?
Yes. So what we do is we provide care in people's houses, in the comfort of their houses. And we move from one client to the next. And that's the type of care that we provide.
And these are contracts, are they with local authorities, or are they private contracts?
Most of them are local authority contracts, either directly with the local authority, or for some of them, a significant number of them, funding coming from the local authority, but the people making their own decisions about who provides them with care. So for us, what we wanted to do was to provide high quality home care. And we do that currently across South Yorkshire, North Yorkshire, and Cumbria.
And you talked about the observation that you had made in thinking about starting the business of what you said was not great care as you observed it across this country. What do you think it is about the care sector that was concerning you the most at that point in time?
The care sector has a number of challenges, and there's a certain reputation about the quality of the care that's given, about the how vulnerable people are treated in their own homes, and about the funding. And there are some structural things about care that we might not go into details with, but essentially it was the quality of care. And when people think about care, sometimes they think care in terms of compliance. They think care in terms of rotas and things. But care is about people, and it's about being invited into people's lives and providing with the service that they need. We are there to provide people and enable people to live the life that they would want to live, but they just happen not to be in a position to do some of the things by themselves. So we are there to support lives. We are there to um, allow people to live.
Even the word care, I think, has become sanitized for a lot of the people in the sector. If care is just a job, but even the word care implies an emotional connection, it implies love, it implies human qualities in the providing of the care. Because there's a difference between care and looking after or servicing. And I would imagine some of what you're saying you observe was that it had become a service industry and the word care was starting to lose its meaning. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that's very correct. Because if you're not careful in care, there are time pressures, the things that needs to be done, it can easily become task oriented. But the people that we meet and the people that we spend time with, sometimes we're the only people that see them through the day. They also want a human connection. They want to be able to talk to people. They want to be able to be listened to. They have stories to tell. Some of them have lived lives that you can never imagine. But at this point in time in their lives, they just happen to need us to support them.
Because one of the biggest killers I understand in this country is loneliness.
It is. It's unbelievable how lonely people can be. And it's one of the things that we recently decided to do something about. So one of the things that we have now recently done is we have established a day center in Doncaster. And essentially the whole purpose of the day center is to bring people together, bring the community together, allow people to interact, allow people to make connections, and allow people to be part of a community.
And with those values that you and Gloria bring into the purpose-driven nature of what you do, I would imagine that would mean that you're quite careful about the quality of the carers that you take on, whether they're employees or contracted. That quality is important to you, is it fair to say?
It is the most critical thing that we have in care. If you look at it this way, for holistic care, our mission is to provide the best possible care. And there's no way you can provide the best possible care without the best people. Care, while of course it's a career for most people, but some people can also call it a calling. We, in our recruitment process, we actually hire for attitude and then train for competence. There must be something about you. The values that we have must be aligned to the values that uh, we need for you to be able to provide that best possible care. So values first, your attitude first, and then we can take the time to develop and train you with the care competences. But yes, you are right on, Tim. It's really important about who we employ and the people that we work with to provide care.
So your recruitment process for carers must be fairly robust and well thought through to ensure that you're filtering those people with those values.
Yes.
You use the word calling. Some people might use the word vocation.
Yes.
What do you think that actually means in real terms? What's the difference between somebody who's got calling and sees care as a vocation from somebody who sees it as a career or as a job?
I think the distinction will be in the values. That's why for us as an organization, we have value-based recruitment. So one of the first things that we do when you're recruiting, there is a skills for care questionnaire that's called the question of care. So it essentially takes someone through care scenarios and ask them how they would react, what they would do, etc., etc. And then at the end of it, it comes out with a score. And that score essentially gives an indication of how inclined you are to caring. What's your value system? That's essentially what it's trying to. For me, one of the advantages that I have had is that I have had the opportunity to work in industry. So what I bring across to care from my heavy industry experience is that clarity about KPIs, the need to measure productivity, that clarity about systems, the need to have systems to help us manage the business. And earlier on, when we decided that we're going to start in care, I decided to join care. I became a driver for an organization and then later became a carer because I don't really believe that you can lead and manage something that you don't understand.
You're not a charity, you're a private business.
Yes.
It's really interesting that a lot of care providers who might be motivated by similar values, the need to balance that with solid business principles and to make profit, and that profit is somehow not an opposite tension to good quality care. How do you manage that journey so that profit isn't a dirty word for good quality care?
Um, the truth is, Tim, we've struggled with it. When we go out and we say that our mission is to provide the best possible care, the understanding within my team that we had was we are going to do anything and everything that's possible to ensure that the care that we provide is of really high quality. But that is real life consequences. We can't continue providing that high quality care unless we're in business. And it took me getting a business coach to try and get our heads around that. So now we do understand that while we say that we want to provide the best possible care, we want to provide that best possible care sustainably and profitably. We want to be doing that next week, next year, 10 years from now. And for us to be able to do that, we definitely need to be.
And culturally, do you think your team is starting to see that, or is that a journey still to go on?
It's a journey, but we have started on it.
And we all know change isn't always easy, both mindset and practical outworking of that. But just going back to starting the business, you said you went to Cranfield.
Yes.
In terms of the knowledge you needed to run a business that happened to be in care provision. Did you feel like you were equipped when you started out to understand the business of business, or was it a case of go as you find and learn as you go? How did you feel in terms of your business capability against your desire to be a great carer?
It's been a journey. It's been a journey of learning. It's been a journey of seeking knowledge. It's been a journey of identifying um, role models and people that we could follow. But for me, one of the biggest shifts that happened for me was that transition from being corporate into entrepreneurship, especially at the beginning. Because, you know, when you're in corporate, you're not alone. You know, you have a team that's and there's always someone. You know, when you think about HR, there's HR to deal with HR. When you think about finance handles finance, admin handles admin. When I first started and being an entrepreneur, you know, if I needed to send a letter, it wouldn't be sent unless I sent it. If I didn't respond to to an email, it waits. If I didn't chase an invoice, the cash does not arrive. And, you know, those doors that used to open because you're occupying a certain office are all of a sudden closed because you don't occupy that office anymore. And then it's all about you and your character and what you bring to the table. So it was a huge paradigm shift for me.
Do you see yourself in the future, as you continue to grow the business, as an advocate for the sector? Could you see yourself getting involved at the policy level with local authorities or at the government level in terms of your values, your vision, your mission? Can you see yourself becoming more of a thought leader in that space?
I do believe that we have the frontline experience. We have the frontline knowledge about the things that are affecting the sector, about things that are affecting the people that we work with. And we would like our voice to be heard. We would like to speak from our experiences and inform policy if the opportunity arises. I think there is benefit in allowing the people that are on the front line, allowing the people that are providing care on a daily basis to provide their input into the policies.
It sounds like local authorities who you have contracts with could learn a lot from you in the way that they develop their own policies as well, because we all know that local authorities are under huge pressure from a budgetary point of view in all sorts of areas, social care more widely. So how to provide good quality care, efficiency, long-term investment mindset, which is often the challenge because their budgets, the budgetary pressure means short-term thinking. So providing good value for money over time is something it sounds like you've got a real voice that needs to be listened to.
I think we have an opportunity to form really good partnerships with our local authorities where we can really be transparent with what's happening in, you know, we can, if need be, and we are prepared to do this, to even have an open book policy when we are working with them so that they also get an understanding of the pressures that we are under, and then we can work together in trying to address the issues that we have. But I think if that partnership develops, I think it will be a win-win for both the local authority and ourselves.
What do you see the vision going forward then in terms of the business, scale, growth? Give me some sense over a timeline of what you'd like to get to.
While numbers are not our absolute priority, like I said earlier, we are looking at sustainable quality as our first priority. We would like in the next 3 years to be able to double the size of the business that we have. We would like to, currently we operate in 3 regions. We would like to add a 4th region to the areas that we operate in. And in those areas that we operate in, we would really want to be the provider and employer of choice in our business, in our line of business. For us at this point in time, we have three priorities. So the first priority for us is sustainable quality. We want to be able to walk into people's houses, change people's lives, ensure that they get the care that they deserve, and do that sustainably. When I say sustainably, I mean profitably. I know it sounds like a dead word when you're talking about it in care, but we want to be able
But
to
it's with
do
the
that.
right motivation. That's the
Yes.
key.
And like I said earlier, we want to be able to do it next week, next year, 5 years from now. And then the second thing that we would like to do as an organization is would like to develop leaders internally. We're a values-based organization, and I believe that if we develop our leaders within the organization will share the same values and would have given them the opportunity to develop their competences. And when all is said and done, we want to be the provider and the employer of choice in the areas that we operate in.
Can you give me some sense of what that might look like in terms of the number of carers you'd end up having on your books and the scale of revenue we're talking about here? There's potential for growth numerically, is there?
There is potential for growth, and we want to be providing and that's plus 35,000 hours of care
That's
per
significant.
year.
That's an impact, regional impact.
Yes.
That's really, really encouraging. So to bring it into land, TT, you've learned a lot in business. What do you think primarily you've learned about yourself when you and Gloria have those conversations over some chocolate that we've come to discover that you like? What have you really learned about yourself in this journey so far?
I have learned that one of the things that I have managed to identify some of my own blind spots. When we start the journey, you are all thinking and planning for the best outcomes, and the journey demands some certain things from you. Demands you to be outside your comfort zone. Demands you to look at things from a different perspective. And one of the things that I've identified about myself is that I like introducing things. I'm quick to move on to change. I'm not very good at sustaining it. So when I'm creating a team, or the people that are around me, I need to be also looking at people who are really good at maintaining things and ensuring that the things that we introduce become embedded.
And there's
into
discipline and consistency.
Yes.
Good old-fashioned words, but might appear boring, but they're necessary for the business to work, aren't they?
They're necessary for it to survive, yes.
Yeah. But if you get it right with the right team members whose profiles suit that consistency that allows you to be more innovative, that's the way that business works. The cycle of business is that it should give you the life that you want, allow you to play to your strengths, and you find right team members with the right skills that can maintain the consistency. So the fact that you've got that view, and you're absolutely right, we've all got blind spots.
And one of the things also that I have realized is, when you are working for a corporate company and when you're working for yourself, there's something that's really different. When you, how do I put it? When you are responsible for something, for example, when you look at finances, every pound is a meaning when it's yours. When you look at decisions, every decision carries weight when it's yours. When you look at mistake, every mistake teaches you faster when it's yours. And some of these things they sound so obvious, but until you live it, you don't fully understand it.
Experience, there's no substitute to experience and time sometimes. But obviously learning quickly is something that it sounds like you've done, and that's encouraging to people listening. If you were talking back now to the 18-year-old version of yourself, what wise advice would you give to an 18-year-old version of yourself just starting out in life?
I would like to be an 18-year-old version of myself.
With maybe a bit more energy, but not necessarily the
Yes.
wisdom that you've got now. So what guidance, what advice would you give to the 18-year-old version of yourself?
I would say to myself, chase skills rather than titles. That's first thing. I would learn finance far much earlier, learn about finance. I would start measuring and recording things as numbers from the first day. I would get a business coach far much earlier.
I didn't invite you to come in to talk about how good business coaching is, but you've done the job for me so
No,
well.
there's something that Tim, that I've found out that, and it's not because you're sitting opposite me that I'm saying this, but one of the things that I've found, and I do believe that you're a great coach, by the way. I'm not just saying this for a discount, but one thing that I found is that a great coach compresses time. The things that were going to take me years to learn, it's done in a fraction of the time. And they challenge your thinking. And in the relationship that we have, my thinking is always challenged. And they expose the blind spots. When we started having our conversations, etc., we needed to go back and start looking at our KPIs. Our KPIs measuring the things that we want our business to achieve. And, they force clarity. What is it that we want from the business? What is it that you are aiming to do? What are your objectives? Are they measurable, etc., etc., etc.? And they hold you accountable. When we have our meetings, etc., etc., it's very liberating to have an accountability partner. And, I begin to realize through the relationship that we have that as an entrepreneur, I don't necessarily need more information. What I need is perspective. And I do feel that the relationship that we have allows me to have perspective.
That's so encouraging. So encouraging, not just for me, but hopefully for anybody listening. And I find it quite moving listening to you because it is a story of my own life as well. But I really appreciate your honesty, your openness. I think you've got a tremendous business, and the fact that the values underpin that. It's been great to get to know you and Gloria as well through this journey. And I can see it flying. I really can see it flying. And for others to really learn from you, not just from hearing what you've said today, but for the business and others to learn from your business. So I really appreciate you coming in. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you. Really appreciate the time.